Hey everyone, it is time for something long overdue, and that is another question and answer video. For those of you who are maybe unfamiliar, these are questions that come directly from my patrons over on Patreon. I try to every month send out a alert saying, hey, send me your questions, and then I come and answer them in a video format like this for YouTube or whatever other video on demand service you happen to be watching this on, like Full30, Gunstreamer, etc. So I'm just going to go ahead and jump right into it because these usually take a long time. So first up from Eric, I have DI versus Piston and why. And this is specifically referencing AR-15s. Now I happen to have my 11.5-inch BCM SBR here, which, as you may, well, maybe probably not able to tell, is a direct gas impingement gun. In fact, every single AR-15 I own and likely will ever own will be a direct gas impingement gun. So why is that the case? So there's a couple reasons why I personally prefer DI over piston. First of all, practically speaking, is going to be cost. Piston guns tend to be more expensive than direct gas impingement guns if you're looking at feature for feature, you know, a gun that's going to be identical to a DI gun, identical to a piston gun. The only difference being that gas system, the piston gun is likely going to be more. And I'd rather use that money to pay for training classes, pay for ammo, range fees, etc. So just number one right off the bat is going to be cost. Number two is going to be parts availability. So if I wanted to build my own rifle, or if I wanted to replace this 11.5-inch barrel, or if I wanted to move this from a pistol or a carbine length to a mid-length barrel, what I could do is go down to any of my local shops, and they're probably going to have a gas block available for me. They're going to have gas tubes available for me. They're going to have BCGs available for me if I want to buy another one of those. All of those are going to be universal. As long as it's a mil-spec rifle, everything's going to cross over. I mean, obviously some stuff might not be built to proper spec, but if you buy quality products, they're all going to be compatible and readily available. Once you start getting into piston systems, all that goes out the window because typically each company that makes a piston-driven AR-15 has their own little takes on it. They have little things different here or there. So it's not like if you need to buy a piston system, they're all going to be the same. So if you, say, go through PWS, who makes a good quality piston rifle, you're not going to be able to find PWS BCGs, pistons, anything like that at your local store most likely. So you're going to have to order either replacement parts or extra parts through PWS directly. Now they do have that available, and that's a good thing. And again, they do have a good, reliable system, but it's not going to be as easy to get those parts as it would be for a direct gas impingement gun. Now the debate a couple years ago was, well, is one more reliable than the other? Some people were saying, well, piston is so much more reliable than direct gas impingement, and you know, it craps where it eats because it directs that gas right back into the upper receiver. And I can just honestly say that has not been my experience. As I have mentioned several times with this SBR specifically, when I took my American Rifleman class with this rifle, it went through 1,000 rounds in 2 days with no cleaning in between, not even re-lubricating in between, and it ran just fine. My 16-inch BCM has run just fine. Every single one of my ARs has run just fine. As long as you're cleaning it every 1,000 rounds or so, which is more than most people put through their gun in 10 years, you're probably going to be just fine. And even then, you know, the pistons are probably not going to be that much more reliable. Now, I know there are going to be people who say, well, if you get into the extremely short barrels, there are situations where piston is going to be better. And yes, there are very specific niche applications where a piston is going to be actually your best choice. However, for most people, with most rifles, as long as you're over a 10.3-inch barrel, direct gas impingement is going to be just fine. And even then, I've had good luck with 7.5-inch. Not necessarily the group accuracy or anything like that, but as far as reliability goes, I have had good luck in that arena. So hopefully I didn't have to beat that horse dead too much, but hopefully you have your answer now. Eric also wants to know striker versus double action, single action versus double action only for carry, and why. And just for sake of conversation here, I'm going to put striker fire in the same league as single action only, such as like 1911s or high powers, things like that. He already knew the answer to this. I think he just wanted to hear a little bit more of my understanding in a video format like this. So it'll probably be a surprise to no one who watches my videos that I am a big proponent of striker-fired guns for carry. And there's really a simple reason for it. Well, a couple simple reasons, I should say. First of all, inherent reliability. And part of that goes to the makers of the guns that I use, and part of that is the system itself. Glocks, Smith & Wessons, any of those high-quality striker-fired guns are just boringly reliable. Are there little one-off issues where people have had issues? Sure, but generally speaking, if you go buy a Glock 19 from a store, it's gonna run. It's the Honda Civic of guns. You just buy it and it just works. Same with a lot of the Smith & Wesson M&P series, and there are other good ones out there as well. There's also bad ones out there, but that's kind of a topic for another video. So inherent reliability. I've run thousands and thousands and thousands of rounds through striker-fired guns and had issues that were not related to the gun themselves, usually ammo related or foreign material getting into the gun. So I have inherent faith in the system of those striker-fired guns. The second big reason I prefer striker-fired or even single-action only guns like 1911s, high powers, etc., not that I recommend those for carry necessarily, is I like having as few variables in the firing process as possible. So, what do I mean by that? I like it when every single time I pull the trigger, it feels exactly the same. I don't like it on, say, like a Beretta 92 or M9, having a 11-pound first trigger pull and then a nice light trigger after that. I like knowing exactly what that trigger is going to feel like every single time. And I would argue the first round in a gunfight that you fire is probably going to be one of the most important, especially in a self-defense context where you have one, maybe two people that is attacking you. So I want to increase the odds of me getting that first round on target, and having a non-11-pound trigger pull is really going to aid in that. Now, I know people are going to say, well, if you train well enough, you can hit with no problem with those heavy trigger pulls. I agree. That is absolutely true. However, when I am under stress, my heart's beating out of my chest, I have tunnel vision or whatever else is going on that is not a good thing but still can happen, I want a very easy trigger pull that I know I can what to expect and I know I'm used to. And having the same trigger pull every single time allows me to do that. Now, there are situations where double action, single action guns will allow you to safely carry cocked and locked, like the Rex 01s, which are probably my favorite double action, single action guns on the market right now. So you do eliminate the issue of that super heavy long first trigger pull, and in that case, I have no issues there. But just personally, with how my training has been and what my experiences have been, I just really like striker-fired guns. Now, if we're talking double action only guns, hey, they work for some people. I know a lot of my friends carry like double action only revolvers for as a backup gun, and I know there are some double action only style subcompact like 9mm. If it's a backup gun, hey, do whatever you want. But me personally, I like having a nicer trigger pull than a double action only trigger pull. And again, I know you can train around it, but I think it's safe to say that the heavier the trigger pull is, the less likely you are to get your shots on target, generally speaking. I know some people say, well, hey, Jerry Michalik can shoot a double action only gun way faster than you can shoot a striker fired. Yes, but you are not Jerry Michalik. And Jerry Michalik, if you are watching, I really appreciate it. Big fan, props, respect. So for the vast majority of the people watching this video, striker fired is just going to be easier for you. And I know there are going to be people saying, hey, I want the safety. Hey, there are M&P guns that have that extra external safety. If that really makes you feel better, not an issue to me. Next up from Eric as well is Doomsday gun, owned versus dream. Like if I could have one gun for a Doomsday scenario, what would I choose? Now, this is one of those things where if you ask me a week from now, I may have a different answer for you. And if you have watched the video I did with the Haas USMC regarding EMP guns, this probably won't come as a surprise to you, but my number one choice is going to be my BCM Recce 16-inch AR-15 for pretty much every reason that I explained in that video. It's going to be lightweight, it's going to be reliable, it's going to be accurate, and there's going to be ammo availability and parts availability all over the place, at least here in the western part of the United States, in a free state, at least currently, like Oregon. And because I went more in depth into that in that video, I'm going to leave it there just for sake of time. As far as what my dream gun would be, it's really hard to say, because in my opinion, Doomsday guns are ones that you have to have a lot of experience with and a lot of practice with in order to have confidence in them. However, I really like the look of the new CZ Brens. I think the 806 or whatever the second generation of the 805 is. I think there's a lot of cool potential there, but without having direct experience with one, I can't really speak to that. And also another alternative might be something like an FAL. My HK91 clone C308 isn't bad, but something like an FAL that I think is a little bit more ergonomic and easy to use might be a really good choice. And those things have definitely proven themselves in battlefields all over the world for decades and decades and decades. So that might be another alternative if I wanted something a little bit heavier. Now, one kind of wild card, actually I have it here behind me. So let me grab this real quick. So this is an AK-74, which shoots 5.45 by 39 versus the typical 7.62 by 39 that you normally get in an AK-47. This one specifically is from Riley Defense and is undergoing testing here on the channel. Really liking it so far, but that's kind of I'll talk more about this specific gun in that video. But in a situation like Russia invasion or North Korean invasion, which is, I recognize, extraordinarily unlikely, this might be a really good gun to go with, simply because this is the ammo that we would be fighting against, which means there's going to be tons of it around, there's going to be magazines around, and there's going to be guns around. So having the familiarity with how to operate an AK-74 style rifle and having the capacity to run it and the familiarity with ballistics and all that would not be a bad thing, and having the inherent AK reliability and ease of maintenance, ease of cleaning, etc. is going to be a really good thing in a Doomsday scenario. Again, extremely unlikely, however, might be a really good choice. Plus, the terminal ballistics of 5.45 by 39 just might be the best of any intermediate cartridge, but that's something I'm going to be testing actually. I'm going to be doing a whole series on that in the future, so definitely stay subscribed to the channel if you want to see comparisons between 5.56, 7.62 by 39, 5.45, 300 blackout, etc. Going to be doing a bunch of tests with that. Should be loads of fun. I have a question here from Jay, which is home defense shotgun preference. Do you want a red dot on it? What type of ammo would you run? And I'm just going to say really quick, generally speaking, I don't recommend shotguns for home defense. And there's a couple reasons for that. I'll run over those reasons, and then I'll get into, if you are running a shotgun, what my recommendations would be. So first of all, they're going to be harder to shoot and slower to shoot. So 12 gauge shotguns are big, generally speaking. They're heavy, generally speaking. They have heavy recoil, and they're just overall harder to shoot for most people and slower to shoot for most people. Can you increase your rate of fire with things like semi-automatic ones? Sure, but you definitely want to make sure that you check it with whatever ammo you're using, because their reliability can be a little questionable. There are some good shotgun options out there, especially the new like Shockwaves with the brace. Having a nice little short compact gun with, I think they're 5 rounds of 12 gauge, not too bad, but again, they're still going to be slower to get rounds on target than something like an AR-15, an AK-47, a handgun, etc. Now again, I know there are going to be people who say, well, so-and-so can shoot the 12 gauge so much faster and get rounds on target. Yeah, but that's not you. And I can say from personal experience, having taught and attended shotgun classes, you're probably not training with your shotgun, because those are the least attended classes of any classes I've ever seen put on. No one wants to train with their shotgun because it's not easy. So before you tell me what someone can do with their shotgun, I don't care, because you probably are not that person and you probably cannot do those things. So, it's going to be a tough pill to swallow for most people, but hey, it is what it is. Now, that said, if you are using a shotgun for home defense, which is pretty likely because they're extremely popular for that purpose, should you have a red dot on it? I would say yes. just generally speaking, yes. It's going to be way faster to use probably. It's going to be way easier to use probably than a ghost ring sight or even a bead front sight. And especially in a low light situation, like at night in your home, that could be a very, very good thing to have. The thing to make sure is that you take that gun set up that way and run it out and test it out to make sure that the red dot you've chosen is going to handle the recoil and its position and everything works out well for you. So if you can have a red dot on it, I would say do it. At very least, have something like excess big dots, like on my Mossberg 590A1. I have a big old excess front big dot on the front of that shotgun, which makes it infinitely easier to use in low light or no light, because literally it comes black. Like the front bead is blacked out. So how they expect anyone to use that in any sort of low light or no light scenario is beyond me. So definitely want to get some sort of replacement for that. And as far as ammo choices, the main thing is don't use birdshot and don't progressive load your shotgun. So birdshot, it's great for shooting clay pigeons. It's great for training. It's great for practice. It is not good for personal defense. And there are plenty of examples of that. There's a video that Active Self-Protection has done, and I'll probably put it in a link in the description, just because I know people won't believe me and will still argue with me on this, of a guy who walks into a school with a full-length hunting shotgun. So he's getting as much velocity as you're going to get out of that 12 gauge, and he shoots a person in the chest with birdshot at probably within 10 feet, if I had to guess. Girl, completely unaware of her surroundings, is walking straight at this guy with a shotgun, and he shoots her high center chest from what it looks like in the video. Now you're going to say, oh, she must have dropped right there on the spot. No, she didn't even go down. She kind of stumbled back a little bit, looked around, and then walked away. So not a fight-stopping round. So do not use birdshot for home defense, ever, ever, ever. And don't progressive load your shotgun. And I think I've talked about this before in my Shotguns for Home Defense video, but I'll go ahead and cover it here because that was a long time ago, and probably you haven't seen that. Just in general, what the concept of progressive loading your shotgun is say you start with a beanbag, and then you go to birdshot, and then if that doesn't stop him, you go to buckshot, and then if that doesn't stop him, you go to slugs. I don't know what fantasy world people are in where they think they're going to have 5 shots before a person gets them in inside the house distances. But that's just not the way it works. I would encourage you to take force on force training and see how well that works out for you. Because if you're in a situation where you have 3 rounds to go through before you get to something that actually could stop the fight, like buckshot or slugs, if that person is inside your house, they are probably at the most 12 yards away. So you fire that first round, boom, hits him in the chest, beanbag into a meth head. He doesn't even feel it, and there's plenty of examples of that out there happening. So, okay, you've shot it, you've racked the pump, and now you're reassessing. Okay, now you're at birdshot. Okay, now he's 7 yards away because now he's booking it at you. So you fire that second shot, a birdshot, high center chest, and I already just explained that doesn't stop the fight either. Okay, now you've pumped your shotgun and now you've reassessed, and now he's at you, and now he's pulled the gun out of your hands, and maybe now he's got a lethal round that will end the fight for you. Just a bad idea. And in a stressful situation, you're not going to know what round you're on next, so you might expect to have a slug, and then all of a sudden you got a buckshot, or you might have a buckshot and expecting a slug. So don't alternate back and forth between buckshot and slug. It's stupid. Don't do it. If you need them extra, have a side saddle or something where you can switch to slugs if you need it, or switch to buckshot if you need it. So, which I guess I should explain. My suggested home defense ammo is either number 4 buck, double aught buck, or slugs if you need them, but I probably will have those on a side saddle just due to penetration issues inside of a residential structure. So, to wrap that all up, because that was a little bit longer than I wanted it to be, if you are using a shotgun, if you could put a red dot on it, test it, make sure it works. And then number 4 buck, double aught buck, and then have an option of having a slug if you want it. So that's my thoughts on that. Another question here from Jay is which pistol or rifle to introduce someone to shooting. I have a video on this also, best guns for new shooters, and basically what it comes down to is 22 long rifle pistol, 22 long rifle rifle. So in my specific case, I have a Ruger 2245 Mark III. And my girlfriend, who is still getting into shooting, absolutely loves shooting it. She is still noise sensitive and recoil sensitive. So I don't want to put even a 9mm in her hands until she feels as though she's ready for that. So starting her out on a 22 is a very friendly, easy way to get her introduced into the fundamentals of shooting. It reduces the number of things she has to be concerned about or be worried about as she's pulling that trigger, so she can spend that time focusing on trigger control, sight alignment, sight picture, and breathing. I want her focusing on those fundamentals, building that muscle memory before I build her up into something with a little bit more noise and more recoil. And then as far as rifles, I have a 10-22. If you have like the Smith & Wesson M&P 15-22, that's a great training gun for people, especially if you want to build them up to like an AR-15, so they have all the same controls and manipulations and all that. That's another really good option. But again, same thing. Very low noise, very low recoil. So people who are recoil sensitive or may otherwise be nervous have less things to be concerned about as they're learning those fundamentals. So 22 long rifle, it's cheap, easy to shoot, and a really good introductory caliber. The last question I have here is from Kyle, and it is, why did I start a channel? Now, I'm going to try to be careful with my response to this question to not name any names or anything like that, but essentially what it was a combination of two things. First of all, I got really sick and tired of watching unboxing videos. Now, there's nothing wrong inherently with an unboxing video if it's sold as simply an unboxing video. The problem I was running into is there were things that I wanted to purchase, firearms, accessories, etc., where the only review I could find was someone who bought it brand new, opens the box, takes it out of the box, looks at it and says, hey, it's great, go buy it. And I'm left thinking, well, is it accurate? Is it reliable? Does it work? Is it ergonomic? I have all these questions that are not being answered because you've never used it. So how can you review something you've never used? Again, there's nothing wrong with an unboxing video as long as you don't sell it as a review or anything like that. In fact, I swore, because of my disdain for unboxing videos, I swore I would never do an unboxing video. So Strike Industries asked, hey, can you do an unboxing video for this? I said, no. I'll do it for my Facebook page maybe. And even then, when I did it, I did not sell it as a review. I said, hey, here's what it is, here's what it looks like, here's all the features, but watch for my review to know how I actually feel about it, because there's no way you know enough about a product to review it if you literally just bought it today and took it out of the box. So anyway, that's my feelings on that. So I got really tired of that, and I thought, you know what? I could do better than that. And the other reason was I was watching tons of videos. I was making myself as educated a purchaser as possible whenever I was buying a product. So like, for example, I should have it on me. If I don't, then that's a bad thing. My Leatherman Juice S2, one of the first things I did a review on for my channel, something that's in my pocket every day. I did a ton of research on it before I bought it. So I'd have people who knew that I was into gear and stuff and would say, hey, what multi-tool should I get? And I'd explain to them, hey, you know, here's the features of this one, this is why I like it. And I was able to articulate exactly why I liked the products I liked and why I recommended the products I recommended. And people kept saying, hey, because of you, I bought such and such item. You know, you should really, you know, do reviews or let other people know. And I thought, you know, I'm going to the range anyway. I'm shooting guns anyway. I'm testing knives out anyway. Might as well turn a camera on, and, you know, if it pays for a box of ammo here or there, great. And apparently enough people agreed to where people started subscribing and watching my channel. I know there are people who disagree with a lot of the things I say, and hey, that's fine. But you know, apparently it was able to resonate with enough people, and I have no illusions of grandeur. I know that I'm a very small channel and will continue to be for a very long time. I'm just talking to the people who want to hear me. And speaking of being able to buy ammo, I should say my 40 Sucks shirt here from Forged from Freedom. I am now an affiliate with them, so if you want to buy shirts like this one, use the link in the description below, and I do get kickbacks from that, and that all helps fund channel videos and everything else. So if you do that, I appreciate it, but I want to disclose that also. I may have my own branded shirts in the future, but that kind of remains to be seen, so we'll see how that goes. So like I said at the beginning of this video, this was a list of questions sent to me from patrons over on Patreon. So if you want to be able to ask questions to be answered in a format like this one, definitely follow the link below to my Patreon page. If you support me over there, it really does make a difference. Even doing $1 a month, it gets you access to all my content early, some exclusive content, like for example that AK-74. I've been doing round count updates for my patrons at first impressions, having the first rounds through it, another update at 500 rounds, showing pictures of all the internals and parts wear, anything like that. So they get to see all that stuff exclusively. We also do monthly live streams. This month has been complicated with school. We do giveaways. So for example, the knife I'm carrying right now from Bastion, they sent me this to review, and then they sent me another one to give away. So when I do the review of this one, which should be coming in soon, I'll be giving one of those away to one of my patrons. So if that kind of stuff interests you or gets your attention, definitely go and follow the link to my Patreon page, because it really does make a big difference in what I'm able to do on this channel. And people are being really noisy, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up by saying, as always, I hope you're able to get something out of this video, and I really appreciate you watching.